The most dangerous beach in the world has pink sand. That fact alone should reframe everything you think you know about what makes a place lethal. Komodo Island sits at number 1 on this list, not because of pollution or rip currents or even sharks, but because 3-metre Komodo dragons walk freely across the shoreline. There is no established safe distance. The risk is structural, built into the landscape itself. That's the principle behind all 13 locations in this episode. Beauty and mortal danger are not opposites. They are, more often than not, neighbours. Number 2 is a beach beside a NASA launch facility, where alligators move from the undergrowth to the surfline without warning. Number 3 is a Bahamian sandbar, where cage-free divers descend among dozens of tiger sharks simultaneously. Number 4 is the Florida coast, where lightning and shark activity operate in documented statistical combination. Number 5 is the skeleton coast of Namibia. Colonial-era shipwrecks, desert-adapted lions, and great white sharks sharing the same strip of water. Number 6 is Darwin's coastline, closed to swimming for 8 months of every year because of saltwater crocodiles and near-invisible box jellyfish. Number 7 is a French island in the Indian Ocean that holds the world record for shark attacks per kilometre of shoreline. Number 8 is a South African lagoon with Nile crocodiles and hippopotamuses at the water's edge. Number 9 is a Hawaiian shore where active lava flows meet the Pacific. Number 10 is a British bay where Europe's fastest tidal surge moves across quicksand, the same quicksand that drowned 23 Chinese migrant workers in a single night in 2004. Number 11 is an Indian beach of black sand that served as a cremation site for centuries. Number 12 is a Portuguese clifftop above a 5-kilometre underwater canyon that amplifies Atlantic swells into 30-metre walls of water. Number 13 is a Spanish coast whose name translates literally as the coast of the dead. The underwater cliff begins within meters of the waterline. The ocean made no agreement with anyone who wades in. These 13 places share one defining characteristic. The danger is not accidental, it was always there. A beach can be too beautiful to be safe. That is exactly the problem with Playa de los Muertos, number 13 on this list, tucked into the cliffs of Almeria on Spain's southeastern coast. The water is a flawless aquamarine. The sand is white quartz. Vertical limestone walls rise on either side, sealing the cove from the outside world. It looks like a place that rewards effort, and that is precisely why people die here. The name, Beach of the Dead, is not a marketing invention. Historical accounts point to 2 possible origins. Centuries of waves washing the bodies of sailors and pirates onto this shore, or the mass graves of soldiers killed in Spain's 19th century Carlist wars, said to be buried somewhere nearby. Either explanation lands the same way. Death has been part of this place for a long time. What kills people today is hidden under the water. Just a few meters from the shoreline, the seabed drops away almost vertically. A swimmer wading in gradually has no warning. One step and the bottom is gone. That same underwater topography produces powerful rip currents that pull people away from shore faster than they can react, faster than they can call for help. And help is not close. The only way in is down a steep mountain trail. Emergency services face the same climb in reverse. By the time anyone arrives, the outcome is often already decided. That combination, sudden depth, strong currents, total isolation, makes Playa de los Muertos consistently lethal in spite of its extraordinary appearance. The beauty is not incidental to the danger, it is the mechanism. 13 down. To find a threat operating at an entirely different scale, the next stop is the Portuguese coast, where the Atlantic does something that should not be physically possible. Building waves as tall as a 30-story building. Point 12. A wave cannot be too big to surf. until it can. Praia do Norte, on the Atlantic coast of Portugal near the town of Nazare, is the place where that boundary has been tested and repeatedly redrawn. In November 2017, a surfer rode a wave officially measured at around 24 meters, a figure that was certified as the largest ever surfed and entered the record books. Photographs from that day look digitally altered. They are not. The reason this stretch of coastline produces waves that exist nowhere else on Earth comes down to a single geological feature hiding beneath the surface. The Nazare Canyon drops to approximately 5,000 meters below sea level and runs roughly 170 kilometers into the Atlantic, making it one of the deepest underwater valleys in European waters. When Atlantic storm swells, enormous masses of energy traveling across open ocean reach the canyon's abrupt underwater cliff. They behave according to a precise physical logic. The sudden rise in the seabed forces all that energy upward and inward, concentrating it the way a lens concentrates light. The wave that arrives at the shore is not simply large, it is the product of an oceanic amplifier built into the earth itself. Nazare generates waves between 25 and 30 meters with grim seasonal regularity. Seen from above, the beach looks almost gentle. Pale sand, a fishing village perched on the headland, the wide Atlantic horizon. That calm is structural deception. For an ordinary person, contact with these waves means death. For the handful of big wave athletes who travel here each winter, it means a legitimate shot at rewriting the record books, at a cost measured in permanent physical risk. Moving east from this stretch of Portuguese coastline, the nature of the danger ahead shifts entirely. What comes next on our list is a beach where the threat arrives not from below, but from above, carried on the wind of the darkest legend in the Indian subcontinent. The ground beneath your feet at Dumas Beach is made, in part, of the dead. That is not a metaphor. For centuries, this stretch of coastline, 21 kilometers southwest of Surat, on Gujarat's Arabian Sea shore, served as a Hindu cremation ground. The ash and remains of hundreds of thousands of people were absorbed into the sand over generations, and they are still there. They are, in fact, the reason the sand is black. Magnetite particles, carried by coastal currents from basalt formations, have darkened every grain, producing a beach that looks like no other. Grey-black, stark, and in bright daylight, strangely desolate, despite the crowds that gather here on weekends. When evening falls, those crowds disappear. Local residents have a firm and unanimous rule about Dumas after dark. You do not go. The belief that the spirits of the cremated remain on this shore is not a fringe superstition, but a widely held conviction that shapes daily behavior. The stray dogs that populate the beach seem to share the unease. At night, they bark into empty darkness, huddle near fires, and display agitation that has no obvious source. Then there are the disappearances. Several people who walk the shoreline after sunset were never found. Official explanations point to hazardous tidal conditions and disorientation in the dark. But investigators and journalists have noted that in a number of cases, the physical circumstances should have produced recoverable evidence. Indian media have covered these incidents without resolution. By day, Dumas is an ordinary, busy beach on the outskirts of a major city. By night, it is entry number 11 on this list, a place whose past is not buried, but underfoot, woven into the very material of the ground. The next location on our list deals in a different kind of danger, one with no history, no legend, and no warning. A beach that looks completely safe can kill you faster than you can run. That is not a metaphor. At Morecambe Bay in Lancashire, number 10 on our list, the tide moves at up to 8 kilometres per hour across a perfectly flat estuary. You cannot outrun it. By the time most people realise the water is coming, the route back to shore is already gone. Morecambe Bay is one of the largest tidal estuaries in Europe. At low tide, the sea pulls back 10 to 12 kilometres, exposing a vast, flat expanse of sand that appears completely solid. It looks like a desert or another planet, grey gold and silent under a low northern sky. People have walked out onto it for centuries, drawn by the strange beauty of a landscape that exists only between tides. And for centuries, people have died there. The sand itself is part of the trap. Beneath the surface lie hidden pockets of quicksand capable of seizing a person's legs within minutes. The combination of quicksand and a returning tide that moves faster than a galloping horse — locals have said exactly this for generations, and it barely qualifies as exaggeration — creates a kill zone that offers almost no margin for error. Sea fogs compound the danger. They descend without warning, erasing the horizon and every visual reference point, turning the bay into a featureless white void. Experienced guides who have crossed these sands for decades refuse to do so without checking conditions obsessively. Strangers stand no chance alone. In February 2004, the bay demonstrated precisely what it is capable of. At least 23 undocumented Chinese migrants had been recruited as cockle pickers and sent out onto the sand at night. When the tide came in, fast, cold, and indifferent, 21 of them drowned. One person managed to make a single phone call while dying. That recording became the defining document of what happened. The disaster did not only reveal the brutality of the estuary, it exposed the networks of illegal labour exploitation operating beneath Britain's economy, sending the most vulnerable people into the most dangerous place. Morecambe Bay does not punish recklessness specifically, it punishes presence. The beauty is real and the danger is absolute, and the two are inseparable. If this bay kills through deception and sudden, overwhelming force, the next location on our list carries a threat of an entirely different kind, one that human instinct has feared for millennia. The ground beneath your feet is younger than your shoes. That is not a metaphor. At Kalapana Black Sand Beach on Hawaii's Big Island, ranked 9th on our list, the earth you stand on may have solidified only days or weeks ago. Kilauea, one of the most persistently active volcanoes on Earth, has been pumping lava continuously for decades. That lava flows downslope, reaches the Pacific, and in the collision between molten rock at over 1,000 degrees Celsius and cold seawater, new land is born in real time. The black sand itself is the end product of that cycle. Basalt, shattered and ground by wave action into dark grains that shift with every new flow. The coastline here has no fixed shape. It is redrawn constantly, which means no map of this beach is ever fully current. In 1990, Kilauea made the stakes of that instability brutally clear. Lava flows consumed the entire historic settlement of Kalapana, erasing more than 100 homes. The original beach was buried under meters of solidified rock. What exists today is a partial reconstruction by subsequent flows, a shore that has died and been reborn within living memory. The visual drama of lava entering the ocean draws visitors from around the world, but the beauty is inseparable from two specific, serious hazards. The first is laze, the plume that forms at the lava ocean entry point. It contains hydrochloric acid vapour, fine particles of volcanic glass, and toxic gases. Breathing it causes chemical burns to the lungs, airways, and eyes. The second hazard is structural. Beneath the visible surface, lava tubes and cantilevered platforms, called lava deltas, form and hollow out constantly. They can collapse without warning, dropping anyone standing on them into boiling water or a newly opened fissure. The danger and the spectacle are the same thing. That tension is exactly what makes Kalapana number 9. From fire, we move to teeth. Number 8 takes us to the South African coast, where the water and the shoreline itself belong to predators that were ancient long before humans arrived. Number 8, Kosi Bay. Most people hear bay and picture something familiar. A curve of open coastline, a dock, maybe a cafe with a view. Kosi Bay is none of that. It is a system of 4 interconnected lakes threading down through the northernmost edge of KwaZulu-Natal, where fresh water quietly surrenders to the Indian Ocean through an estuary choked with mangrove roots and coastal forests so dense the canopy filters the light into something almost green. The whole area sits within Isimangaliso Wetland Park, a UNESCO World Heritage Site, and that designation is the reason the place still looks the way it does. Protected, intact, ungoverned by the ordinary logic of tourist infrastructure. What that protection preserved is something most of coastal Africa has long since lost. Hippopotamuses move freely here, dozens of them, following routes between water and shore that predate every human trail in the area. Those routes do not yield. A person who steps into one at dawn or after dark is not in danger in any abstract sense. They are in the path of the heaviest land animal on the continent, and the one most consistently responsible for human deaths across sub-Saharan Africa. The Nile crocodiles are a different kind of problem. The males here reach 5 meters in length, over 700 kilograms, and they patrol the shallows near the lake margins and the estuary mouth with a patience that is almost mechanical. A motionless body in dark water against a tangle of mangrove roots is invisible until it moves. And by then, the geometry of the situation has already resolved itself. Tourists come for the snorkeling. The estuary is genuinely extraordinary, and the warnings about crocodiles and hippos are posted, acknowledged, and quietly set aside in the presence of water this clear and landscape this beautiful. Remoteness does the rest. There is no constant oversight here, no barrier between observation and immersion, no margin for a miscalculation. From the primordial stillness of the South African bush, we move now to a solitary volcanic island in the Indian Ocean, where the danger does not wait on the shore. It comes from the water itself, and it does so with unsettling regularity. Number 7 on our list holds a distinction that no coastal community wants: the highest density of fatal shark attacks per kilometre of shoreline anywhere on Earth. That is not a projection or a historical average pulled from a century of records. That is the documented reality of Saint-Loup Beach on Réunion Island, a French overseas territory sitting in the Indian Ocean between Madagascar and Mauritius. Between 2011 and 2023, more than 25 confirmed attacks were recorded along the island's coastline. Roughly half of them were fatal. A lethality rate approaching 50% has no parallel among populated beaches worldwide. The species at the center of these incidents is the bull shark, an animal with a specific set of traits that make it unusually dangerous in shallow recreational water. It tolerates fresh water, moves freely into river mouths and nearshore zones, and does not require deep ocean access to hunt. Researchers believe that coral reef degradation and shifts in fish populations have displaced the sharks toward the coast, though the precise chain of causes remains under investigation. From the air, Réunion looks like a problem-free place. Steep volcanic peaks drop through dense forest toward a ring of white sand and a lagoon that reads, in any light, as turquoise and calm. Saint-Loup sits on the western shore, and for decades it was exactly what it looked like: a surfing destination with near-perfect waves and a reef that seemed to offer natural protection. That reputation sustained a local culture and a local economy in equal measure. The French authorities drew a line in 2012. Swimming and water sports have been banned across most of the island's coastline ever since, a permanent prohibition renewed at regular intervals rather than lifted. For the surfers who built their lives around those waves, the ban has been a slow, ongoing loss. The beach itself has not changed. Under midday sun, it still looks peaceful, still looks inviting, still looks safe. The warning signs are the only visible evidence that the water is neither. From an island where the danger lies below a surface that gives nothing away, we move to a coastline where threats approach from 2 directions simultaneously, and where reaction time is rarely enough.
Darwin's beaches are closed for swimming 8 months a year. Not occasionally, not as a precaution during extreme weather, routinely, predictably, officially. Number 6 on our list sits on the northern tip of Australia, where the Northern Territory meets the Timor Sea, and the reason for that closure isn't one danger, but 3, operating simultaneously in the same water at the same time of year. The most visible threat is also the largest reptile alive on Earth. The saltwater crocodile can reach 6 meters in length and exceed a ton in weight. What makes it particularly relevant here isn't its size, but its behavior. Unlike most crocodilians, the saltwater crocodile is an open ocean swimmer. It travels dozens of kilometers along coastlines, crosses between islands, and appears on beaches with no prior indication of its presence. It hunts precisely where the water looks safest, at the very edge, in the shallows, where a swimmer would naturally feel least exposed. The second threat is invisible. Box jellyfish carry venom that can trigger cardiac arrest within minutes of skin contact. Irukandji jellyfish are smaller than a thumbnail, nearly transparent, and produce a syndrome unlike almost anything else in medicine. The victim becomes convinced, physiologically and psychologically, that death is imminent, a sensation that persists long after the sting, long before treatment can stabilize them. That combination, a predator that arrives without warning, a contact toxin that kills in minutes, and a near-invisible neurotoxin that destabilizes the nervous system, is why local authorities in Darwin don't describe the beach closures as a safety measure. They describe them as an accurate reflection of conditions. The water is genuinely, consistently uninhabitable for humans across the better part of the year. And if you assume that the world's most dangerous beaches look the part, the next entry on our list will challenge that assumption.
Réunion, a French island in the Indian Ocean, holds one of the highest recorded concentrations of shark attacks per kilometre of coastline anywhere on the planet. And it looks, from the shore, like paradise. Number 5 on our list is a place that doesn't kill you with drama. No eruptions, no sudden floods, no single catastrophic event. It kills you with distance, with silence, and with the slow, indifferent fact that nothing here was ever meant for human beings. The Skeleton Coast stretches 500 kilometers along the Atlantic edge of Namibia, where the Namib Desert simply ends, no warning, no transition, and drops straight into the ocean. The San people of the region had a name for it that translates, more or less, as the land God made in anger. That name has held up. What makes this coast so reliably lethal is a mechanism, not a monster. The Benguela Current drags cold Antarctic water northward along the shoreline, and that temperature differential generates fog, dense, fast, and completely unpredictable. Portuguese navigators were running their caravels into these rocks in the 16th century. The pattern never really stopped. More than 1,000 shipwrecks now lie along this stretch of coastline, from wooden hulls to steel cargo vessels. The fog makes the shore look open. By the time it doesn't, it's already too late. What remains on the beach is almost geological in its stillness. Whale ribs, seal skulls, rusted iron frames half swallowed by sand, human bones occasionally from crews who made it ashore and then faced something arguably worse than the sea itself. Because the coast is alive. Desert-adapted lions patrol the shoreline, hunting Cape Fur seals in the surf. They have no particular fear of humans. Great white sharks work the same waters, drawn by seal colonies numbering in the hundreds of thousands. And the nearest settlement might be several hundred kilometers across open desert. A rescue operation here isn't difficult. It's a logistical problem that often has no clean solution. Landing on most of this coastline is formally prohibited, not as a symbolic gesture, as an acknowledgement that survival here, without equipment and support, is nearly theoretical. But if the Skeleton Coast is defined by isolation and the slow accumulation of absence, the next place on our list operates on a completely different principle. Death there doesn't wait. It arrives from above, and it does so more often than anywhere else on Earth. More shark attacks happen here than almost anywhere else on Earth, and yet the beach looks exactly like a vacation brochure. That contradiction is what earns Volusia County the number 4 spot on this list. Located on Florida's Atlantic coast, the county encompasses Daytona Beach and New Smyrna Beach, 2 of the most visited stretches of shoreline in the United States. The geography sets the conditions. A narrow band of land sits between the Atlantic Ocean and the warm, shallow waters of the Indian River, and the humid air rising from both directions over sun-heated ground creates a continuously charged atmosphere. In terms of lightning strikes per square kilometre, this coastal corridor consistently ranks among the most electrically active zones on the planet. Fatalities on the beach from lightning strikes are not rare anomalies here, they are documented, recurring events. But the lightning is only part of what makes Volusia statistically dangerous. The warm, murky shallows and the sheer volume of swimmers produce a near-perfect overlap between human activity and predator territory. Bull sharks and blacktip reef sharks regularly move into waist-deep water along these shores. The annual bite count is not driven by unusual behavior from the animals. It reflects the ordinary math of millions of people swimming in water that is also occupied by sharks. Most attacks are not fatal, but they are consistent enough that locals treat the risk the way most people treat a weather delay: annoying, possible, and fully expected. The real lesson of Volusia County is about proximity. Danger is easiest to dismiss when everything around it looks normal, and here everything does. The cars drive onto the sand, the families set up their umbrellas, and the ocean does what it always does. Further along our list, there is no illusion of safety to maintain. Open water, no cage, and dozens of tiger sharks circling in the clear blue of the Bahamas. Dozens of tiger sharks gather in the same shallow stretch of open ocean, day after day, and people dive among them without a cage. That is not a controlled experiment or a one-time stunt. It is Tuesday at Tiger Beach, Grand Bahama Island, and it has been that way since the late 1990s. Number 3 on our list is the only place on Earth where mass open water contact between humans and large predatory sharks has become routine practice. The tiger shark ranks second globally in documented attacks on humans, trailing only the great white. What makes it particularly formidable is not just scale, though individuals here can measure 4 to 5 meters and exceed 700 kilograms. It is behavior. The tiger shark is broadly omnivorous and, more critically, unpredictable. It does not circle as a warning. It does not broadcast intent. It can commit to an attack without any of the preliminary signals divers are trained to read. Tiger Beach sits off the northern coast of Grand Bahama in water that rarely exceeds 10 meters. The bottom is white sand. Visibility stretches to the horizon. The place looks genuinely like a vacation photograph. That visual comfort is exactly what makes the contrast so disorienting when you register what is moving through the frame. Dive operators have worked this site for decades, conditioning the sharks through regular feeding. The scientific debate that followed has never fully resolved. Does habituation create a more predictable animal, or does it erode the natural wariness that keeps sharks from treating humans as familiar objects? Both conclusions have supporters. What the data does confirm is that serious incidents have occurred here. What it also confirms is that no deaths at Tiger Beach have been formally documented. The divers who descend into that luminous, sand-floored water are making an informed choice in the presence of known risk. That is what separates this entry from the next one on our list, where the danger comes without any warning at all. Number 2 on this list is a beach that looks, by every visual measure, like a postcard. White quartz sand, almost no crowds, no hotels, no beach bars, just open coastline and, on the southern horizon, the launch towers of Kennedy Space Center. That last detail is the key to understanding why this place made the list. Playa Linda Beach sits inside Merritt Island National Wildlife Refuge in Florida, a federal protected area that exists specifically to create a buffer zone around NASA's launch facilities. The same legislation that keeps developers away from the Space Center has kept them away from this shoreline too. The result is a stretch of coast backed not by resorts, but by undisturbed marshes, brackish lagoons, and mangrove systems. Ecosystems that function exactly as they were designed to, which means they are full of wildlife that has had very little reason to fear humans. The most immediate consequence of that is alligators on the beach. American alligators from the adjacent freshwater canals regularly cross the shoreline and bask in the open sand, sometimes within meters of the surf. Adults here commonly reach 11 to 13 feet in length. These are not habituated animals. They have not learned to associate people with food, nor have they learned to avoid them. The refuge has protected them too effectively for that. The water presents a separate problem. The coastal waters around Merritt Island carry consistently high bull shark activity. Bull sharks are the species most capable of operating in both saltwater and freshwater environments, which makes them frequent visitors to the estuaries and river mouths along this coastline. They also appear in attack statistics from every continent where they are present, more reliably than almost any other species. The combination of these two threats is what makes Playa Linda genuinely unusual. A swimmer here faces documented predator pressure simultaneously from the land and from the sea, a statistical and geographic overlap that is rare anywhere in the world. The beauty of the place is not incidental to that danger. It is the reason most people do not expect it. Next, we move offshore entirely, to the shallow Bahamian flats where encounters with the largest tiger sharks on record have become almost routine. The most dangerous beach on this list is also one of the most beautiful places on Earth, and that is not a coincidence. It is the point. Komodo Island's pink sand beaches inside the UNESCO World Heritage-listed Komodo National Park in Indonesia's Lesser Sunda Islands rank first precisely because the threat here is real, documented, and sharing the same shoreline as something genuinely rare. The pink colour of the sand comes from fragments of red foraminifera coral mixed into the white coral base. The result is a hue found in only a handful of locations worldwide, which explains the demand. It does not explain the risk. That comes from the Komodo dragon. This island is the only place on the planet where giant monitor lizards roam freely onto the beach. They reach 3 meters in length and 70 kilograms in weight. Over short distances, they move at up to 20 kilometers per hour, faster than the average person can register, decide, and run across open sand. Research published after 2009 confirmed that their saliva contains venom glands, producing anticoagulants that send prey into shock. These are not passive animals. They hunt actively, set ambushes, and have attacked people, including tourists who misjudge the distance. And the ocean provides no refuge. Komodo dragons swim regularly between islands throughout the archipelago. The danger is not contained to the land. Visiting requires a licensed ranger escort armed with forked poles. Tourists must stay grouped and maintain strict distance from the animals. Incidents still occur. The island is not inaccessible. It is manageable with the right precautions and the right guide. But nothing here has been softened for visitors. The dragons do not distinguish between a nature reserve and a tourist attraction. They never have. What makes this place rank first is that combination. A beauty that is legitimately extraordinary and a predator that is legitimately present. The beach you're about to see next conceals its danger differently. Not on the sand, but in the water just beneath the surface, steps from the shore. The most dangerous beach on this list is also the most beautiful. That is not a coincidence. 13 places, 13 different ways the ocean, the land, and living creatures can turn against you. We opened on a Spanish beach whose name already carried a warning, then moved through Atlantic waves the height of 10-story buildings, through funeral pyres burning at the edge of the Arabian Sea, through the fogs of Morecambe Bay, where the tide moves faster than a running person. We watched lava pour into the Pacific off Hawaii. We tracked crocodiles at the waterline in Kosi Bay, mapped shark attacks off Reunion, and counted the months Darwin's beaches stay closed because of saltwater crocodiles. 8 out of 12 every year. The skeleton coast stripped away the idea that danger needs teeth. Sometimes it is fog, current, and the complete absence of anyone who could help. Florida collapsed the boundary between lightning strike and shark attack. Both are real, both share the same stretch of surf. Tiger Beach made one thing clear. The sharpest experiences on the planet are separated from death by knowledge and luck in roughly equal measure.
Playa proved that an alligator on the sand and a bull shark in the shallows are not a contradiction. They are simply the local wildlife. And then Komodo, pink sand, black volcanic rock, water the color of shallow tropical sea. The Komodo dragon has been hunting these shores since long before humans arrived and has made no adjustment for our presence. It does not chase. It bites, waits, and follows. Beauty and danger are not opposites. At the places that matter most, they are the same thing wearing different faces. If this list stayed with you, like, comment, and subscribe. The next episode is already waiting.